Welcome to the Gabrielle Lara Show, a podcast created for the new and aspiring entrepreneur who's navigating the messy middle part of their entrepreneurial journey. I'm your host, Gabrielle. I'm a niche expert and a sales coach who helps coaches like you find your niche and sell in a way that's authentic to you so that you can have a thriving business. I'll be inviting entrepreneurs from all walks of life onto these episodes to share their story of how they went from an aspiring entrepreneur to a CEO and all the messy parts they navigated in between so that you do not feel alone on this journey. Sit back, relax, and stay a while because you are more than welcome here. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Gabrielle Lara Show. I hope you all have been enjoying these stories. I feel like we've had some incredible entrepreneurs on the past few weeks, and I have another one with me here. Her name is Inbal, and I cannot wait to introduce you guys to her. So, hello, Inbal. Thank you so much for joining.
Yay. Hi, Gabrielle. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited too, because I feel like, and I haven't heard your story before, but I feel like you have a really cool background and an interesting story. And so I wanted to bring you on to really share that with my audience and everyone listening here. You know, the purpose of these stories is for me to bring on these entrepreneurs from all walks of life to normalize that messy middle, right? Because every single one of us experiences a different experience, right? A different messy middle. And so it's my job, right, and a mission of mine to find entrepreneurs from all walks of life whose stories can make you feel more seen and heard. So, Inbal, please. People are always like, well, what are the questions? I'm like, honestly, I just ask you to share your story and then we go from there. So, tell us your story. Like, how did you get started? What was your journey? Where were you a few years ago? And then how did you get to where you are now?
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. I love, and I've already told you this, I'm obsessed with the fact that you talk about normalizing the messy middle. Because
It's like
it
crazy.
is just so powerful and people can learn so much from hearing other people's messy middle. So I will start off by saying that I have two little daughters, a 2.5-year-old and a 10-month-old. I had a husband that was in the Marine Corps. He got out in July. He deployed during COVID. And I have two businesses. So
Wow.
starting from the beginning.
Wow. So just kind of throwing that out there. Oh my goodness.
Just throwing that out there. So my middle has been messy, but it's been amazing. So I met my husband, and shortly after we started dating, we talked about starting a business together, just like a fun, easy one, just to kind of pay, for trips or rent or whatever. Well, he ended up having to go to training for 3 months. And so I figured, okay, leading up to this is the perfect thing to take my mind off of him being gone. And it was a candle company. I should have said that. So we basically did like YouTube videos, trial and error for 6 months, building up to this launch of my candle company, August 17th of 2017. And he left and I launched, and it was such a learning experience. I had so many connections being from Orange County, just in the fitness world. I was in the restaurant world. So I had lots of friends that were supporting me. They were going to farmers markets and all this stuff. Well, he comes back from his 3-month training and he said, hey, I got selected to do this program. We're moving to North Carolina. Oh, we're going to get married and we're going to move to North Carolina. So
I love that.
yeah.
Just, we're going to get married and then that's what we're going to do.
Well, we talked about this before, but we were like, okay, well, now we're moving to North Carolina together. And I told him, I was like 32 at the time. Like, I'm not moving across the country without a ring.
There you go.
I'm not a spring chicken here.
Yeah.
So yeah, we moved. And it was basically starting my business all over again because it was a new area. I didn't know anybody. I had to prove myself really in the farmers market world, in the trade show world, in the holiday market world, the retail stores around the area. So it was really like rebuilding. And the best way I knew how to do that was to make connections with people and to follow them on Instagram, to comment on their posts, to share their posts. And then when I moved to North Carolina, it was like, oh, hi, I'm Goldwood Candles. And they're like, oh yeah, thanks for sharing our, post. And like, we follow you on Instagram too. And it was really cool. So I did that for about a year and a half in North Carolina. And then my daughter was born and I had to massively shift. I couldn't do shows anymore. I was nursing. I couldn't do, even 8-hour shows. It was just not possible. So I had to really shift from in person to online sales. And the best way I knew how to do that was through influencer marketing. Everybody was talking about influencer marketing. This is when like The Bachelor and The Bachelorette girls were really big. So I was like, okay, like how hard could it be? My candles are really cool. I'm just going to message them and they'll want one. No, they,
If only it was that easy.
I
It's
know,
like we were just like we all done it. Like we were so naive then. Like it's gonna just be so easy. They'll
I
just message
know.
me right back, right?
It is so crazy looking back at like how much I didn't know. But I feel like that helps sometimes because
For
you're
sure.
ballsy, right? You message people, you tell them just really authentically about your business. So essentially I would message them and the message would get lost in their inbox, or their managers would email me back and say, oh, no problem. We'd love to work with you, but it's $5,000 for a post. And it was just so out of my price range. I later found out that there were influencer marketing platforms that charged brands and businesses like $500 a month to use the platform to connect with influencers. And that also was not in my budget. So that's where my idea for Like Minded Collective came from. I wanted to build a platform for influencers who that there was no minimum, no matter how many followers you had were welcome. Small businesses and brands, no matter what your budget was, you are welcome on the platform. And that way you can build connections with each other and do collaborations to help both sides grow their business without taking a commission, no minimums, no requirements. And I got this idea when my daughter was 3 months old. 3 months later, my husband deployed and I moved to California to be with my parents, and COVID hit. So I was like, this is amazing because I'm stuck at home. I want to meet people and network with people, and I'm able to do it from my house. So it worked really well for me to do that. And I started to build my second business. As I was building my business, I realized, okay, well, now I'm a tech founder. I have zero experience and I needed to make connections with people who knew what they were doing. And I joined Clubhouse again, and I loved it. There were so many amazing women on there. There were people who were investors that I could ask questions to. There were people that I could connect with to help me with design, things like that. I had already hired a developer, which was horrible. We can talk about that later. It's also messy middle.
I
But
can't wait.
essentially, I just made so many connections that I was like, wow, I want to bring these women onto the platform and connect with each other because it can help everybody grow. So it went from kind of an influencer marketing platform to a social community marketplace for female founders. A place where you can create a profile, you can search, you can message, you can post, and on the social feed that we have, promote your business, ask questions, post job offerings, freebies, things like that. And then we also have the community aspect where we do like networking and mastermind events a few times a month. So that's kind of where my idea came from and how it kind of came through. And yeah, we launched 2.5 months ago after
Oh,
over 2 years of building. So yeah, it was super exciting.
oh my, okay, so walk us through the messy middle of building that app because I really want to highlight here like how you jumped into a space that you had no experience in. One that is so freaking badass, it's not even funny. Like that's so badass. And that's like a really, really male dominated industry. And you just did a cannonball into that deep end and was like, I am here, bitches, and here we go. So we need to figure this out. And you did, and you figured it out. And I think that that is so badass. So walk us through like how you went from idea to like app on the phone.
Yeah, it's so funny you say that. So before we moved to California, before my husband deployed, I did a lot of market research and I talked to a lot of people who I was either considering working with, like developers, things like that, or people who had experience in the industry that I'm in. So, like, I knew the husband of a really big influencer. So I talked to him, and a few other people. So it's so funny because they were all men. And they all basically said, what you're creating is not going to work. You need to charge way more than what you want to charge. You need to do X, Y, and Z, and you need to take a commission. You need to do all this stuff. And it would have put me in the same boat as the platforms that I didn't want to be. And so I'm so happy I didn't listen to them, because I really wanted to make the platform, specifically the influencer marketing platform, affordable for brands. So I started, the first thing that I had to do was obviously create, a trademark for my name, find a website that worked with my trademark, and get an Instagram and all that fun stuff. And then started to work on branding and the website. I ended up hiring a developer that I had worked with in the past, when I managed a restaurant. The ownership had changed though, and I basically got screwed royally. He outsourced it to somebody overseas, and it was just a huge language barrier. The communication was not there. I was correcting grammar and punctuation, like spelling. It was awful. So that took about 8 months. When we first started the project, he basically told me it was going to be ready in like 2. So just to put into perspective, the delays, and it was awful. So we went from that developer. Eventually I just told him like, hey, this is just not working. Let's just like get as far as you can and let's call it quits. I then did my own research. And I was pregnant at the time with baby number 2. So for all the moms out there, your hormones skyrocket. So there were a ton of tears, lots of tears, just really battling, figuring out what I want to do, and like, how am I even in the space without the experience, and trying to navigate. So I just went on Facebook. I went on Facebook groups and I started asking people like, hey, do you have recommendations for developers that can code in this language? This guy reached out and he said, I'm not familiar with this, but I can hire somebody who is, and I can manage the project for you. Seemed like an awesome guy in Oregon. He really is. Well, he hired somebody and that person outsourced it. So it was like deja vu all over again with more delays. We had to restart the project from the beginning, essentially. He hired somebody else who took it to the finish line like 95% of the way. And it was just, again, just no communication. Things were not getting done. Like everything that I needed him to change, he was like, okay, well, this is going to cost more money. This is going to cost more money, but it was in the contract. So it was a mess. It was a mess. And I said, I think it's time for me, with the knowledge that I have, to just work with a developer directly. I don't need a middleman. I don't need somebody to kind of help me through. I need a developer in the US. And that's what I did. I went on Upwork. For those who are not familiar, it's a place that you can search for designers, VAs, developers. It's kind of like Fiverr, if you've heard of that, but you can really focus on like US based people if you want. And so I found somebody after interviewing about 20 people, and he's the developer that I currently work with. He's incredible. He takes the time to teach me. He makes sure that I know what's going on. He brainstorms with me. He gives me his opinion. He helps me with design if I need. And it was just, if I had to do it all over again to get to him, I would.
Wow, that's so
um,
powerful. And everyone listening, if you're thinking of launching an app, like take notes on that. Like the real purpose of having people share these stories is that so that we can make your lives easier, right? So that like Inbal navigated those 3 developers and third time was a charm for her. So hopefully you can nail your first one.
yeah. And it's really about, I wish that I would have taken more time in the beginning to find somebody that could really help me
Yeah.
navigate. Because
Yeah.
for me, I was in this mindset like, okay, my husband's gone for 6 months. My goal is to launch this app in 6 months. I didn't know nearly enough to know that it was going to cost so much more money. It was going to take so much longer. So instead of being like, oh, well, this person's telling me it's going to take 6 months, this person's telling me it's going to take a year, like, of course, I'm going to go with the guy who told me 6 months, when in all reality, it took 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's okay to spend more time up front, like really finding a coach or a mentor or an advisor, somebody in the field that knows what they're doing to navigate you. Because if you spend money up front, it's going to save you money in the long run.
Yes.
And that's so difficult for people to hear. And I'm one of those people. Like, I'm bootstrapping this project. It's not cheap. And so for me to think of that in the beginning, it's difficult to understand and like really feel. But I'm telling you, as somebody who's gone through it, hire somebody in the beginning or find somebody in the beginning to help you, because it will definitely save you time and money in the long run.
Well, everyone listening, maybe we can convince Inbal to open up a division of her business and do that. I literally wrote down here, like you guys probably see, if you're watching this on YouTube, you're probably seeing me write notes, and I literally wrote down at mentor and circled it. So just throwing that out there. Everyone listening, whenever like people come on the show, I warn them, and I'm like, listen, my gut like speaks to me constantly, and if it's ringing, I'm just gonna say it. And it was just ringing on that one, Inbal. Just saying.
I will take that into consideration.
Just saying. I'm gonna follow up with you on that.
I
I'm gonna
know.
like DM you on Instagram and be like, so about that ad mentorship. But seriously, I mean, that's the name of the game with the self-education industry, right? Like you navigate some transformational experience in your story, which is exactly what you did here. Like wasn't the greatest experience, but now you're on the other side. Now you can help other people through it. And so everyone listening who, just like you said, right, when you were pregnant and you just said there were so many tears, like trying to figure out what's going on in my life. Like, if any listeners are dealing with that right now, just like really like rewind that and listen to her story there of how she navigated that. And like, even now, like potentially she could now be that person that she needed back then. But back to the app, a little introduction, a little introduction.
Let me start off by saying this too, in addition. So when I had the second, I should say this is like the fourth launch date,
Yeah.
potential launch date. It was supposed to be March of 2021, and my daughter was due in June of 2021. So I was like, okay, that's great. Timing is working. And then that's when we had to shift developers for the third time. And the launch date got pushed to August of 2021. And mind you, my husband was getting out of the Marine Corps in July, and we were going to move back to California in August.
Oh my.
So I'm talking like business launch, baby, cross
Mm,
country move. It was, I mean, when the news came to me, it was like gut wrenching. And
yeah.
I didn't know how to handle it. But this is so cliche, but everything happens for a reason and everything works out, right? And my beta launch ended up happening November 1st, which was perfect timing. But that doesn't say that I couldn't have pushed it if I needed to. Like, you don't have to launch right when it's ready if it doesn't work for you. You can
Right.
push the launch, you can learn more, you can make adjustments. And some people actually go the opposite way where they're like, I'm just going to launch before. And if my, MVP, most viable product, has X, Y, and Z, then I'm just going to launch it. And then I can always add more. So you're really in control of your product, your service, your platform, and you can make adjustments as far as timing goes, whichever direction you need. So don't be stuck on that like launch date, because it can change and it'll be okay.
I love that you highlighted that. And just to kind of write off that for a second, like that's it. Like you are in control. And I think so often, right? Like when we start our businesses, for me, I was just laid off from my job. Eric was just laid off from his job. I jumped right into it because I was desperate to make money. I was so scared of not having money, right? And like when you have that rug pulled out from underneath you, it's easy to do that. And I think too, like you probably wanted to just get that out to start making some of that money back, start making that impact. And it's so easy to let that mindset guide the ship, but like you guide the ship. And this is where, like, if I could go back to just like put on that CEO hat and say, pause, like, let's push it out a couple months. And like, so I think it's so interesting that you mentioned that too, because it's like, we're always so eager to just get it out there, but sometimes that's not the best thing to do.
Yeah,
And that's
100%. Yeah, and it goes back to other aspects too. Like I hired a digital marketing agency far too soon.
okay.
Um, and I spent a lot of money with them where now I have a VA who's incredible and she does exactly what I need for a fraction of the cost. She's
Yeah.
US based too. So, you know, it's not like I didn't know, you know? And I had all these launch dates set. And with the digital marketing agency, they were like, okay, well, Inbal, when's your launch date? When's your launch date? When's your launch date? We need to like plan content. We need to do countdowns. We need to do this. So it was like an added stressor to be like, I don't know. Like, I literally don't know. Um, and then it was me pressuring the developer. So it was just, it was horrible. It was like, I ended up not working with them after right before the official launch, but it I didn't need them. They didn't
Mhm.
really help me um, because I had like launch delays. I wish I would have hired them later on and learned what I did from them. But I basically had them for like a year without even a
Oh,
product.
yeah, that's
So
tough.
that was rough too.
It's right, but like, how much have you learned? You probably learned so much from that. And
Totally.
that's the thing, and that's why it's so important to navigate that messy, and why I want to shout that from the rooftop. Like, yeah, you hired, a service for a year without a product. Like, that sucks. But I
Mhm.
bet you have learned so much from that, that moving forward, every investment you make, you probably look back on that and it's like, I'm not going to pull that again. We have new wisdom going into this one, and that's what's going to make your, like, that's where you're seeing your success. Like, that's how you continuously see success and scale your business, is by learning from these like crappy mistakes that we all do.
Yeah. And it's so funny. Like, my husband's the best and he's so supportive. And he's just like, just look at it as you're getting your MBA because that's what you're doing,
Mm,
you
I
know?
love that.
So if you're looking at it as like investing in your education, then it's a lot easier
Mhm.
to look back and be like, okay, it wasn't a waste. And it really wasn't. They built like a good community for Instagram around like minded. They taught me, a lot. So it wasn't wasted. It was I do look at it now as more of an education
Right,
standpoint as opposed to a return on my investment
right.
standpoint.
Right. And it's like, and that's it, right? Like, maybe you went into it like I need the ROI, yada yada, and then you go through it and it's like, looking back, it wasn't that bad. And it happens. Every single one of us walks that walk. And so anyone listening, if you're walking that walk right now, like, I hear all the time, people hire coaches too soon, or the wrong coach, or they spend X amount of dollars and just don't see anything back and they're beating themselves up. That is business, baby. It's just like, you do the dance and you learn, and we've all done it, and I feel like you're not a true business owner unless you've done that. So it's like, just give yourself some grace as you navigate through that.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's like a relationship, right? Most people don't get married to the first person they're in a relationship with. And
Right.
you go through relationships and you learn and you figure out what you want and what you don't want. And it's so important to do that with people and you learn what to ask as you go along too. So if you're thinking of
Mhm.
working with somebody, you ask the, better questions the more experience you have, and that's kind of how I felt with my developer. Like by the time I interviewed straight developers, I knew what I was talking about and it was easier to find, the bullshitters, pardon my language, as
Completely.
opposed to the people who like were really genuinely interested in helping me. They were interested in my business, and it's night and day once you have that experience under your belt.
For sure. Oh, I love that so much. Have there been any hiccups that you've had to navigate since launching?
There's so many.
Like, which one do I choose?
I know. Oh my
It's
gosh.
important. It's like, and I want to just emphasize how she said, like, so many, right? Like, we all think we're gonna launch our product and it's gonna be smooth sailing, and it never is. ever,
No.
ever, like, regardless of how long you've been in business. But as entrepreneurs, we always figure it out because that's what we
Yeah.
do, right? Like, that's the job description of everyone who owns a business. You just figure it out because shit is going to hit the fan. Something's going to pop up on a Tuesday afternoon, which is the last thing that you expect. And you still make it work. You make it work.
Yeah, and you know what? It's funny. I will tell you about this hiccup specifically, but I will preface this by saying use your hiccups as content, because if you are going through this, chances are somebody else is going through this and they can relate.
Mhm.
So, um, you know, I I'm so grateful that my developer is like very communicative and he responds, because this is an app, it's a mobile application. People are signing up, they're signing in, they're putting their credit card information, they're utilizing the platform. Hiccups happen all the time, bugs. So that's fine. My hiccup that I saw was pricing and people signing up for free when they should be signing up for a paid subscription. So my business model initially was influencers can sign up for free and small businesses are paid. And that's
Mhm.
kind of how it is, pretty generically on influencer marketing platforms. Influencers can sign up for free, brands pay. And I started to notice that brands were signing up as influencers. So it was one of those like, okay, I need to figure this out and I need to restrict some capabilities of people that brands don't sign up as influencers anymore. And so I really worked with my developer that day to make those revisions to the platform. And that's the best part about working directly with a developer as opposed to a project manager, because that was done within an hour.
Wow.
And he knew the urgency. I'm sure he could hear it in my voice when I called him.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we altered, and that alteration helped a lot. So now influencers can sign up for free, but just to create a profile and to respond to messages. So they can't search, they can't promote their business, they can't initiate messages, they can't join the masterminds, they can't do any of that stuff. So we really restricted the capabilities to make it undesirable for brands and businesses to do that. But that's just how it is. People are going to take advantage, or they're going to try to take advantage of situations, or you're going to, get hiccups or run into problems. And it's just about shifting, and you have to shift quickly sometimes. And so that's really the importance of having an awesome team around you, who can shift with you.
It's all a learning curve, right? Like that, and that's the beautiful thing, right? Like that's a blessing in disguise. Is thankfully you didn't have the other two developers. You had this guy on speed dial, and within, like, 60 minutes, it's fixed. And
Mhm.
that could have been a disaster, right? But like, you got a little taste of it, and then you acted quickly, and that's what it's all about. Like, I'm sure there's been so many apps that have done that, and you pivot, you refine, you take action as the shit hits the fan, right? As it literally smacking you in the face. You just come up with a decision, you fix, and you go.
Yeah, and you have to. I mean, there's no option. Um and you just have to realize that, like you said, everything is a learning experience, and having somebody who, like I said, he brainstorms with me. So he's like, okay, Inbal, like, I hear what you're saying. Let's make these revisions, but let's add this. So let's
Mhm.
keep the features. But if somebody clicks on it, it says, oh, like, do you want to access this feature? Like, please upgrade your account. So it's not like the features are gone, but we're adding the features so they kind of know, and then asking them to upgrade. So like I said, it's you really need to find people to surround yourself with that can help you brainstorm, like that, because that's beneficial too.
It's always so important to just have an outside opinion. Like, I looked way over that when I started my business, and now I invest heavily in stuff like that for my business because it's just helped me tenfold. And I've always made it back. I've always, like, taken it and run, hit an ROI, but it's like getting that outside opinion of just somebody who knows what they're talking about, right? Somebody in that space, not just anyone. It's someone specifically within your niche,
Not your
within your
husband.
Yeah, right? We love them so much, but sometimes, they're not their advice just kind of does more harm than
Yeah.
good. But it's yeah, the power of an outside opinion is huge. So I have two questions left that I want to ask you. So I ask this question to every podcast guest. What is something that you wish you could go back and tell yourself at the start of your business?
Honestly, connect and stay connected. I
Mhm.
think people are so easy to make connections and network with people, but really keeping those connections and giving as much as you're receiving with everybody. Because like on Clubhouse, I made awesome connections with people and I nurture those connections. And like with you, we met through
Mhm.
Facebook group and I just love staying connected, whether it's like just really engaging with your Instagram stories. Like I
Mhm.
feel what you're feeling, and really relaying that um, to anybody, to investors that I've talked to, kind of keeping them updated on my platform. Um, just just staying connected is huge because I think a lot of people make connections, but they don't stay connected.
Yes, and I would add to that is a lot of people focus on their leads and they don't focus on collaborating and networking equally as important.
Hmm.
Because when you have a strong network, you have a referral network right there. And if you have a referral program, like right after Inbal and I met, I sent her mine and I said, "Hey, if you know anyone, they sign on with me, you get a commission," right? People like that is so important in your business. So like don't look past that. And if I recorded a mini training on this the other day of like the one regret I have in my business, and it's the same thing. I wish that I collaborated and networked and like stayed connected with people more because I was just so focused on sales, and like I think that would have just helped me tenfold. So I love that you brought that up because you're such a connector. We were talking about this before. Inball's the best. She's like such a connector, and that's why like this app, it makes so much sense for you. It just makes so much sense with like you and your strong suit and your superpower. Like your superpower is literally being able to connect people, but like the right people to the right people and just making it work
Yeah,
and like
thank
seeing
you.
them make sense. I think that's so beautiful.
Yeah, and like the reason why like doing these masterminds and networking events was so important for me was because I was like a week away from launching and I was planning this launch party and I was like, I don't have like girlfriends. Like, I mean, I have girlfriends. They're incredible. They're amazing. But some of them are not local. None of them are entrepreneurs except for my sister.
Yeah,
And they
I
don't
get
get
it.
it, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I'm
So
hearing that.
so when you're about to launch something that you spent 2 years building, you want people to be like, "Holy cow, Imbal, that's amazing. Congratulations." And you want to
Mhm.
celebrate with people. And I didn't feel like I had that close by. And so I wanted to build my own group of friends essentially with people who were in the same shoes that I could celebrate them, they could celebrate me, and we can just root each other on. And that's basically the backbone of Like Minded Collective. It's just friends that can help you and that you can help them grow. You can root each other on. And the whole goal is to just brainstorm and build each other's businesses. So it makes me so happy. Like we were talking before, is when two people connect on like a Zoom or a networking mastermind or through an email or something. And then I see them connecting, like doing podcasts together and like doing IG lives together. It's just the best feeling.
It's so beautiful. So, how can people get in touch with you, Inbal? How can they work with you? How can they join Like Minded Collective? Run us through all of that.
So Instagram, I'm at like.minded.collective. My website is likemindedcollective.com. And then if anybody wants to try out the platform, you get 10 days for free. And then if you use Gabrielle50, it'll give you 50% off your first month.
Yeah.
So there's two options. You can use the platform only, or you can do the platform and the networking masterminds. I did want to say one thing that I just remembered. I'm
Yeah.
in an accelerator and we were talking about sales and they were kind of talking about what you just said, how when you go to a networking event, like, the ones actually in person, like exchanging business cards and things like that, think of the people that you're networking with not as people that are going to use your product, but people that will refer you business. Exactly what you just said. And it's so true because the conversation's different. There's no like pitching really. You're just like passionately talking about your business and connecting and asking them about theirs. So just reiterating what you said because it's so true.
That is huge. And thank you so much for giving the listeners 50% off their first month. That's massive. And for everyone listening too, in October, I believe it's October, I'm going to be doing a training in one of Inbal's masterminds. So hopefully I will see you guys in there. I attended one a few weeks ago and it was awesome. The energy was great. And just being in the room with those people was really empowering. So I can't suggest it enough. I'm going to add everything in the show notes below. Instagram, website, and the membership to join. So thank you so much, Inbal. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. What a great time. I love it.
Did you enjoy today's episode? If so, I would be super appreciative if you left a review and a rating and shared this with a friend so that I can continue to bring you value every single week. I'll see you next time.